911 had been called. A neighbor, a self-proclaimed HOA enforcer, was furious. She claimed a black man was breaking rules on his own land. Tall grass, livestock wandering, a shed too big. She expected fear, compliance, an apology. But when she stormed onto the farm, ready to escalate the situation, she didn't see what she feared. She didn't see an ordinary landowner. She saw a man with a badge, authority, and training she had never imagined. And suddenly the tables turned. What do you do when someone you think is powerless is actually in control of everything? Jerome Williams owned a sprawling farm just outside the town limits. Rows of crops, orchards, and grazing animals marked his land. He had worked for decades, building it from the ground up, quietly and diligently. For years, he lived peacefully, unnoticed by neighbors or the local HOA, who prided themselves on maintaining standards. That peace shattered one hot summer afternoon when a woman, known for overreacting and calling herself the neighborhood watchdog, decided to escalate minor infractions. According to her, Jerome's farm violated HOA regulations. She called 911 claiming harassment, property violations, and public safety concerns. Within minutes, local authorities were dispatched, and Jerome knew trouble was coming. But what she didn't know was that Jerome wasn't just a farmer. He had a career long forgotten by the neighbors. He was a former law enforcement officer trained in investigation, crisis management, and conflict resolution. He had served his community with distinction, though now he preferred the quiet of his farm. As the police cars approached, Jerome prepared himself, but not for confrontation. He intended to de-escalate. Yet he also knew that authority comes not just from training, but from presence. When the HOA Karen arrived, her face red with fury, she assumed dominance. She pointed, she shouted, and she fully expected compliance. But Jerome's calm stance, his deliberate movements, and the glint of the badge around his neck changed the narrative instantly. Would she back down or escalate this further against someone she clearly underestimated? The woman stormed the farm, phone in hand, ready to demand action and involve law enforcement. She began reading regulations aloud, listing supposed infractions with dramatic flair, certain that Jerome would falter. But Jerome remained calm. He stepped forward, explaining that while she might see violations, every inch of his property was legally his. The crops, the livestock, the shed, all fully compliant with zoning and property law. The neighbor scoffed, waving her phone. "I called 911. The police are coming. You'll be in trouble." Jerome smiled faintly, then reached for the badge around his neck. In that moment, the dynamic shifted. He wasn't a target. He was an authority figure, trained to handle exactly these sorts of confrontations. When the officers arrived, the woman began recounting her complaints, expecting validation. But Jerome's calm, precise explanation, paired with his badge and credentials, turned the situation upside down. Officers quickly realized that the supposed violations were non-existent. The HOA Karen's confidence wavered. The more she insisted, the more her own misjudgment became apparent. Jerome didn't shout. He didn't need to. Each word he spoke, each step he took, revealed a man in command. Someone who had been underestimated simply because of his appearance and the assumptions of others. Neighbors, who had gathered silently, began murmuring in disbelief. The woman's own privilege and assumptions crumbled in real time. Jerome handled the confrontation with professionalism and calm authority, diffusing a situation that could have escalated into chaos. By the end of the confrontation, the woman stood speechless. The badge, the training, and the quiet confidence of Jerome had revealed the truth. She had overstepped, misjudged, and assumed power where she had none. How often do we underestimate people based on appearance, assumptions, or biases and pay the price of our arrogance? As the tension peaked, Jerome calmly asked her to step back. The officers confirmed everything he said. The land was fully compliant, and there was no public safety threat. "The HOA?" Karen fumbled for words, her face red, her phone still recording. She realized that all her efforts to assert authority were meaningless. Jerome didn't need to argue, threaten, or escalate. His calm authority, knowledge of the law, and presence of mind had already shifted the balance completely. Neighbors watching from the road whispered, some laughing quietly at the irony. A woman who had called for external authority was now exposed as the one out of her depth. Jerome, once underestimated, had reclaimed control, not through force but through expertise and composure. The officers left, satisfied that no crime or violation had occurred. Jerome's farm remained untouched, his boundaries respected, and his authority acknowledged without a single word of aggression. The HOA Karen, humbled and embarrassed, retreated. Her assumptions about power, race, and control had been dismantled in minutes. This wasn't just a personal victory. It was a statement. Jerome's calm courage reminded everyone that true authority comes from knowledge, preparation, and self-assuredness, not threats, calls to 911, or privilege. The incident became a viral story, a powerful reminder of how quickly assumptions can fail. Jerome didn't seek fame, but his actions resonated widely. He had shown that being underestimated because of skin color or perceived status is a societal blind spot, and that knowledge and composure can turn the tables. Neighbors, once oblivious to his presence, now offered nods of respect. The HOA Karen's threats became a cautionary tale. Jerome continued his quiet life on the farm, tending crops and animals, but with renewed confidence. He knew that standing firm with knowledge and calm authority could prevent injustice. The story isn't just about a farm or a badge. It's about the invisible people in every community who carry unseen strength. It's about recognizing and respecting authority where it actually exists and challenging our own assumptions. Next time you assume someone is powerless, ask yourself, are you looking at them or at your own biases? Because sometimes the person you dismiss is exactly the one holding the power to change the story.